final Sunday art talk of our series in conjunction with our current exhibition, Bodies, Water, Land, Flesh, Evidence. So we have 4 fabulous artists here today. They're going to speak about their work, about their inspiration, about some of the thoughts behind the work that they've created here in this exhibition, and then their studio practice in general. This is going to be a pretty informal panel discussion. So you are welcome to interject with questions. You can save them for the end, or if you feel particularly inspired, don't be shy. So this is really meant to be an opportunity for us to hear about the lives of artists, for these artists to get to know each other. So I'm just going to ask a series of pretty simple questions, and we'll see where it goes. But this will be pretty much free for all. Hey, 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 we have a spot for you right here.
Oh, great.
Yay. She's here. Okay, so.
Sorry.
Start with that.
No, she's here. Okay, thank you for being here. So with that, we have now 5 artists. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and do a brief bio of each artist so that you have a point of reference. And again, very brief. I've had to condense. Hi, how are you? Welcome. Okay, so first we have Lilla Ohrstrom right here. And her work can be found here, these bronze sculptures, as well as the bronze sculptures on the end flanking the room. Lilla Ohrstrom is a mixed media artist residing in the Plains, Virginia, which is her hometown. Her first love is clay, from which she creates most of her work, including that which eventually is cast in bronze. Also a practicing art therapist, Lilla uses art as a way of helping herself and others navigate the complexities, beauty, and simplicity of this world. Her motto, art is life, life is an art. Okay, great. Now we have Thomas Dade, aka the Black Picasso.
Yeah.
Okay. So Thomas's work can be found here, here, these 2 pieces here. There's some small works behind me on this wall, and there's a piece over there. So Thomas is an abstract painter who brings his creative vision to life through a diverse range of mediums. Drawing on energy of music, his ancestral range of his ancestral roots, and the transformative influence of Afrofuturism, Thomas creates works that explore complex layers of identity and metaphysics. He credits his experiences as an assistant to renowned artist Sam Gilliam and John Dreyfus for sparking his passion and guiding him on a vibrant journey of artistic and cultural exploration. Okay, did I get everything right so far? All right, Chris.
You forgot his motto.
Oh, us. Do you have a credo? Think about it.
Start off right, the end up right.
What? Oh, start off right, end up right?
Yeah.
I like that. We'll get some t-shirts. Chris Stevens, his work can be found here, these 2 lovely pieces, also here, and these fabulous pieces there. Chris Stevens' vibrant use of color captures the sweeping beauty of the Shenandoah Valley, offering a captivating and unique interpretation of the region's landscapes. Holding an MFA from James Madison University, his work is featured in prestigious collections, including those of SAS Institute, American Express, Bell Atlantic, First Union National Bank, Wachovia Bank and Trust, and the UNC Women's and Children's Hospital, among many local collections here in the Shenandoah Valley and beyond. Okay, Chris now resides here in Front Royal, just right down the way, where he continues to draw inspiration from the natural world around him. Yes, okay, Whitney. Oh, no, sorry, I'm getting a little mixed up. Gary. Hi, Gary. Okay, Gary's sculptures can be found here. This is Gary Colson here. Here, this is alabaster. Somebody asked me yesterday where you find alabaster, and I didn't know. answer?
Dry places. If it's above ground and getting rain, it's melting.
Oh,
So
okay.
Utah, Colorado.
So you had to travel to get it. Okay, Gary Colson. Gary's an artist and art educator based in Fauquier County, Virginia. He earned a BA in studio art from Mary Washington College, a teacher's certificate from James Madison University, and a master's of interdisciplinary studies from Virginia Commonwealth University. Gary has taught visual arts in public schools since 1991. Thank you for that. While also maintaining an active art practice focused on stone carving. He has created over 70 sculptures in stone and wood. And last, but definitely not least, we have Whitney Waller. So her pieces are here. She also has some sculptural pieces behind on a pedestal. Whitney Waller is a Virginia Beach native who studied figurative sculpture at the New Orleans Academy of Art before earning a BFA from the Corcoran College of Art and Design in Washington, D.C. She held a residency at Red Dirt Studio in Mount Rainier, Maryland, collaborating with artists like Margaret Boozer, J.J. McCracken, and Howard Connolly, and continues to participate in their open studio events. She currently runs a local figure drawing group called Draw Club, and is working on a mural at the Salvation Army building right down the road. Though she once identified primarily as a sculptor and draftsman, she has returned to painting in recent years. Thank you guys. Have I forgotten anything? Anything I've left out that you'd like to add? No. Okay, so we're going to start this way. I'm just going to begin by asking simply, Lilla?
Sure.
I'm going to give you this, and I'm just going to speak without it. Thank you. So Lilla, I usually start by saying, can you start us off with how you began a work? But what I really want to know is some formative events in your life that have shaped your decision to become an artist. Maybe that includes the landscape in which you grew up in, or your family of origin, or your cultural background. Just kind of a brief way into how you found yourself here as an artist.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for showing up to show an interest. I was always interested in art from my childhood. It didn't get stamped out of me. I think that happens to some people. I think a lot of people love art as a child, and something happens along the way. I was fortunate enough that my parents always supported. My father was an architect, and he was very encouraging. And my mother was kind of a free spirit. She was certainly not discouraging. And I got to use clay when I was little. When I was in kindergarten, M. Sharp was the teacher at my school, and she introduced me to clay, and I kind of loved it from the time I was 5. And I, in kindergarten, maybe said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I was like, "I want to be an artist." So I just sort of always liked to make things, and I got to be allowed to make things. So I spend a lot of my time now trying to help other people who, in many cases, did get that stamped out to re-engage with art making, because I think it's such an important part of being alive. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, how about you, Thomas? How did you find your way into becoming an artist from the beginning?
I have to go back to, it was about like 3 or 4, honestly. A Viewmaster, The Wizard of Oz, and my grandmother, Mildred, who gave me a set of encyclopedias. And on my birthday, probably when I was 5, she bought an oil paint set for me. One of the ones that's in a briefcase sort of thing. And I just started drawing the things that I saw in the encyclopedia. And she would bring me home paper, on reams of paper from where she worked downtown in Washington, D.C. at government, GSA. And she saw something in me very early on, so I would sit there on the floor with that paper, and she would bring me pens, Skillcraft, different pens and pencils, and I would just draw. Johnny Soccer Robot, or whatever I saw on TV, whatever I wanted, like a car. They didn't make that type of car, I would draw it, you know. So very early on, my grandmother, Mildred, saw something. My mother told me later, not too long ago, she just turned 70, bless her heart, that she had an opportunity in the inner city from Washington, D.C., where I was born, to go to George Washington University, but she was intimidated by the time she got there by looking at everybody else's work. So she didn't have the self-esteem at the time. My grandmother wasn't where she was when I was born. So she didn't see the same things, or she was blind to it for whatever reason. But that is my inspiration, my family, my dad, my mom. My dad is a cartographer. When I went to Duke Ellington School of the Arts, he gave me a set of pens for Pediograph. So he added to all of this. He wanted to be an artist, but his family was from the country. So I guess it's just family. I don't want to take too much time. It's family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Hang on a minute.
How about you, Chris? Early influences.
Early. Testing. What happened?
Now try.
Hello?
Oh,
Hello?
oh well. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
hello. Okay. Let's see, early influence. When I was quite young, I don't know, but not 6 or whatever, maybe 8 or 9, I had a chance to observe a real artist, see him work, and then later on it turns out he was a family friend of my best friend. So we visited him at his home, and he had, his home was an artist's home. It was completely different than anything I'd ever seen before. He seemed happy and engaged in what he was doing, in just creating a life. And so that was the formative influence. Just seeing a real artist and realizing that that is an actual thing in the world that a person could do, regardless of whether you had parental support or not, which I didn't really have. The funny thing about this guy is I still know him. He was a gifted portrait artist, but he always put things in the way that kept him from doing his work. So he has like 100 rental houses in the city where he lives that require his constant attention, which gives he said, if I have an income, then I'll be free to make my art. But he has never gotten to that point, and he's, I think, 80 years old now. So that's the backstory.
Okay, thank you.
All right, early influences. So, my Aunt Bee, I had an Aunt Bee, and she painted. She took a lot of classes, and so I had real oil paintings on the wall growing up as a child that I could reach up, touch, blow my hand through the brush strokes, and that meant a lot. And my mother was extremely supportive. When my father, he traveled all the time and brought back those little notepads you get at hotels, and those were my sketchbooks. And I prided them. I kept them in my toy box. So that was, I early on, definitely keeping drawings from 3, 4. And, but, my mother was always supportive. She took me she told me to pack up all my drawings to go to an art show when I was maybe 10. And I was drawing maybe 9. I was drawing Chilly Willy and Pink Panther. And so I packed them all up and went there, and there were these still lifes of bowls of fruit everywhere, and I had no idea what was going on. But she took me there, they didn't know anything about art world. I didn't either, but we just figured it out. Dad was a problem solver. He was an engineer originally, kind of a machinist, and but we had a shop that I could play around in, and that was informal education starting. I knew I wanted to study. It was always fine for me to go to school to study art. So that was different from, I think, a lot of people's experience. And so I don't know that.
Thank you.
Don't turn it off.
Oh.
It'll never work again if you turn it off. Yeah, so I guess for me it's rooted in family as well. My dad also was an engineer. He was a chief engineer on merchant vessels, like big cargo ships. And so I learned a lot of tools very young and just felt like I could make stuff, and that was great. Very empowering to just be like, oh, I can just do things, make a thing in the world. And my mom was always very crafty, but actually by the time I was in my like early teens, or even younger maybe, she was doing a lot of ceramics. Like that wasn't present when I was very, very young, but it was something that started. And I had some idiosyncratic things when I was very young. I would like obsessively try and copy the things from the comic books, but I would also obsessively try to copy dictionary pages, like not the pictures necessarily, but like I was really weird, interested in like the punctuation I didn't understand and the formatting. And now I'm a cataloger, also at a library, so there's a certain connection there for me. But then when I was in school, I did some gifted programs early on, and they first were sort of academic, but I had some art teachers that just were like, no, you need to do the art program instead. And so I was really lucky. I started getting access to some amazing working artists as my teachers in a program in Virginia Beach called Old Donation Center for Gifted and Talented or something like that. And then I went to a governor's school program in high school, so just early on it was part of my life.
Yeah. Great. So it sounds like permission early on was key, you know, or just the validation that it was a worthy thing to do, art. So Lilla, tell me, how do you begin a piece? Like, do you sketch things out? Do you start with the materials, or do you start with the idea? How do you begin?
Well, I don't usually design things very clearly and follow a format. I'm pretty intuitive in the way that I approach most of my work. I mean, certainly the kind of work that I have in here, like these, I would have, you know, I don't know, like it's that question of like, where does an idea come from is so, I don't know where it comes from. It drops in, you get the idea, and then it's like, okay, I have the urge to make the thing, and then it's like, what is the thing really? Like, what's the material I'm going to use to make this idea? And I mean, I generally start my things in clay, but not everything is always clay. And I do also do very figurative work, you know, like I do commissions of people's dogs, and in that case, if I'm working that way, the structure, the way that I start would be different, because I know I'm making this object and it's going to have a representation of this animal. So, you know, I take some measurements, I take some photographs, I look at the dog, you get to know it. You know, it's a different process actually than when I freeform something ceramic. Like I don't have them in here, but I love to do just like freeform ceramic sculpture that's completely intuitive. I have no idea what I'm making even when I begin. Those are actually some of my most fun things to make. And something like these sculptures, you have to build an armature, so I'd start with wire. And I would build the general form of wire, and then I'd add the clay on. And the wire's nice because you know it's flexible, so if I change my mind as I'm working, I can push things around. That's one of the things I like about clay, and this would be very different than if you're carving in stone or any carving material, because I have that flexibility to push and pull and add and subtract. So, does that answer the question?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, yeah, thank you. Thomas, how do you start? I know you're influenced by music, you're influenced by cultural identity.
I believe Gary was saying something about knowing a working artist. So I was validated by the way that I approach things through, just use Sam as a reference. Music happens, but like when I get something blank, I remember one time he sent me out into, it was 14th Street, it was a studio on U Street, and said go find some objects, just bring them back to the studio. So as I wandered around 14th and U Street during that time, the early 90s, I would bring back things. So I knew the power of an object, how we get, like, you know, it's like quantum physics, a certain object can take you to a certain place. So I used found objects, or I mean use a clipping of some sorts to sort of bring reality into things, sort of. But really, it's basically I start out on the canvas, I do a drawing, I listen to music, I make something good for my body, and I let my soul really talk to me. I don't use any sort of models or anything. I can do a figurative piece, I can do certain things during commission, and that helps you start out a certain way because the person is looking for a certain thing. But my recent commission, who was one of my alumni at Duke County School of the Arts, said he gave me artistic freedom. So when that happens, I draw, I look at it, I turn it upside down, I sleep, I wake up, I look at it again. I have a wife who's my better half, and she gives me her opinion on it, and then I change it again, and it talks to me. I wait for whatever I'm doing to speak to me. I don't want to sound fictitious or, you know, fake, but that's really what it is what I put down is what's speaking to me. And it's like when I was a kid, I look up at the clouds and I could make a picture out of the clouds, or whatever was speaking to me and having me stroke this way or add this color. I flip it, I look at it a different way, and allow it to carry me through where I'm going.
Great, thank you.
What was the question?
How do you get into the work? Do you start with a sketch? Do you drive down the road? Are you inspired by a vista? And that's, or is it, you know, how do you begin?
Yes, I do all those things. I think I'm a landscape painter, or initially a landscape painter, because I had this strange feeling that I was missing something when I was inside. It's a weird thing, but it's like whatever cool was happening was outside. I'm trying to get outside. And, starting landscapes from life is, for me, is sort of an I don't express exuberance, generally speaking, but it is an exuberant activity for me. And so I guess the only other thing I could say about that is that references the figures is that the structure, the sort of compositional underpinning of the painting is extremely important to me. And if it's subdued, then you have a more representational piece. If you bring that architecture or the composition to the foreground, it's more abstract. And you can be, like in the figurative painting, somewhere in between. You know, there's planes of color, and it's sort of an analysis of the form rather than trying to depict the form exactly as it is. So I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah, great. Good place to leave it. Thank you. How about you, Karen?
Staring.
So, I've done a lot of different mediums over the past, so I kind of choose one hat. So I'm answering the question with stone sculpture in particular, so that it's attractive and it's a different mindset. And having taught for 30 years, I can tell you that you can put a block of any material in front of 30 students and you'll be lucky to find one. I mean, it'd be very rare to find one that can say, oh, I see something in there and I don't need this, I don't need that, and they start getting rid of the things they don't need with, after a while, confidence. But so that, it's just a different mindset. It's not the mindset that I went into my love of art to seek out. It kind of became obvious that I was one of those people out of a group that could think that way. So direct carving became something. To find a piece of material that already had nature or other man-made occurrences, have taken something away from a block, and then you have this interesting shape to look at and let it speak to you. So that's kind of how I started. And now it's more, it doesn't have to be an interesting form to begin with. I can work from a solid block, and there's so many other things, but I still like to think of it, it's obviously still subtractive, but I really love bringing other mediums in my prep start, drawing, but drawing doesn't quite get it. What really gets it for me is to make a block of clay and let it kind of harden up and get it to the point where I can carve it easily with simple tools. So I'm doing something subtractional with a small scaled down version of that stone. So I make, even just looking at the stone long enough to make a little copy of it with the dents and dings and everything into that small version, but then to take that, perhaps even make 3 or 4 of them, and try to remove what, let it speak to you, let it remove things, try it a couple different ways. And then it's great. I always have the model too. I love having the maquettes. The maquette is an important part of the process, even though it started from direct carving, which means like looking at the clouds and just seeing something, what could be in there.
Thank you. Whitney, how about you?
Yeah, so I also work in several different forms. I have like these paintings that are abstract and surreal, and things that I approach that way are very associative, and I really don't think about it getting into it. In fact, sometimes with two-dimensional works, I'll just like literally start splashing colors, on different panels or pages or whatever I'm working with, and kind of just, and I'm never really working on one thing at a time. And so that's all very associative. And then I have things like the sculptures that are here, which the only thing that really dictates them is the basic idea and form. I don't do a lot of like sketching. It's more like I make a whole bunch of them and edit out what I don't like and what isn't working, and then if something was really neat, then I might try that again. But I'm still like, they are primarily plaster, but some of them have more and less reinforcing fiber in there or other materials that sometimes peek through the surface. And so I'm always still, like, even when I set a form or some guideline, I keep playing with it. But then like the real bulk of just product that I make is observational drawing, either in my drawing group, but actually recently I'm out downtown on the weekends, almost every weekend, because there's all this activity that's been happening more and more around here, and there's a lot of live music, which is a subject that I've just been recurrently drawn to over the years. And so actually now, like, just like physically the bulk of the most of what I'm doing now is just going out, observing people and situations and documenting it essentially.
Great, excellent. Thank you. So for those of you that are artists, or I know that I'm always interested in knowing how artists just manage their inspiration, their practice, keeping it going. So can you tell us a little bit about how you stay inspired, how you feed yourself ideas? What do you do when you're feeling a little bit uninspired? Do you go to like a rote like practice and just like, how do you do that? How do you manage your inspiration?
Okay, thanks for the question, because of course, time management is not the same as managing inspiration, but I would say it's a struggle for me, how to fit all the things in that I want to do. So sometimes I make the error of not grabbing my inspiration when it's there, and letting too much time pass before I make something. I found that actually doing sketchbooks and short drawing activities or collage is really useful in terms of capturing an idea when it comes, so that you don't have to feel like you have to, make the whole concept that you came up with, but you're capturing something about that idea when it comes, and then I have it to refer to. And I keep things around a long time, sometimes that are unfinished. Not everybody does this. Some people are like, I start it, I finish it. If you don't do it in a certain time period, it's not the same work of art or something. But I actually have a lot of times I'll have something knocking around my studio for even 20 years, kind of. It doesn't let me throw it away. It's like, no, I sparked this idea in you, and you're going to do this with me at some point. And it is conversational. I think that the people who are saying, these things speak to me, whatever, it's true. And so, I hate to say that sometimes hanging on to things is one of the ways that I keep my inspiration going, because I know I need to let go of things, but it is. I think that's one reason I do that. I'm just sitting here saying in my mind, what I'm saying to myself as I'm trying to speak to you is, get out there and make some of the things that you have in your head right now, because you're sitting on some things and you need to make them. And but I'm here talking to you, and I'm heading to Williamsburg to take my plate club there. And, I'm gonna look at, study some other pottery, and I've got a lot to do. So that is the other thing I would say, though, is all of that is inspirational. Connecting with other people, connecting with traveling, visiting, seeing what other art is in the world, historical things. I went to Egypt last year. It was amazing. Japan. I travel. I go places. I really I'm curious about the world. I like to see what's out there, and then I like to kind of process it and see what comes out. And it's a lot of different ways. Sometimes that's in the form of putting a group of work together, like Melissa's doing here, and I do that at my gallery as well. This Friday, 1 to 6 in the Plains, come see my gallery. But anyway, enough about me. Let's hear about you.
Thank you, Lilla.
Right. Staying inspired. Well, I like what she was saying about having things around, because once again, I was validated by Sam. He was an avid toy collector. He loved trains. So, I asked my wife, I have the little small toys always around. Points of reference: when I was a child, my favorite Tonka truck that got ran over by another truck as I left it out overnight. Those things, I still wanted it, even though it was crushed, because it still had value. So it's little things, found objects. I'm always finding something. I like nature. I would take walks where I live, and people leave these rocks that's been beautifully painted. So I have a collection of those, and those are inspiring, because there are people out there that can just start something and finish it. Because sometimes that's where I am. I came by the Block Picasso because it was a person who did something that he loved for so long, and I want to live long and do this which I love. Over the summer, I tried to stop working because of certain things, and because of the support of my wife, I was able to take a few months out and really look at my catalog and take my time with things and see things differently. So thank God I had those things, and thank God I've been painting all that time, because I slowed down and I was able to see what I've been doing and look all the small things that I've been putting together, small sculptures and maquettes and things. But those are the things that keep me inspired, and knowing that someone as great as Sam and John, they both had things around them all the time, postcards, and going to museums to say, well, I think my work is good enough to be in a museum. That was one of my habits every weekend, is to go to the museums and see other people's art, to understand what all of us are capable of doing. Those things are inspiring to me. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask again. Time management.
How do you stay inspired? How do you get yourself out of a slump if you find yourself in one? Or Just work, just get to work, and inspiration will come.
No, yeah, this is going to sound a little harsh, but the artist Chuck Close, American artist, said inspiration is for amateurs. And it does sound harsh, but what he meant was go to your space, there'll be something there that needs your attention, and you will just get to work, and that's been my experience. For a long time, I was artist in residence in this county, and I worked in the 5 elementary schools, and I was also raising a family, and so a lot of my time was encumbered, but I was determined not to let go of my painting practice. So it was like, school's out, I head out get children situated, head out to paint. And when I stopped teaching, I all of a sudden had the luxury of time. And then I had this problem of allowing myself not to always be out there, working. Time spent just looking at your work is valuable. It's valuable. And also being dormant for a while. A deciduous tree is not the worst thing. It's not like you're not. It's not value. It has value because you're like regenerating, and again, I just like touch base with my work every day. I guess the only other thing I would say is that for a long time I kept my home not too encumbered with art making materials or paintings in progress or whatever, and it took me a long time, but I let that go. So there's a little still life station in my kitchen, and there's dining room is covered with, Whitney and I draw musicians together, and it's covered with the panels and the works that we've been generating. And anyway, my whole house is, a place to work. So that's been inspirational.
You can't get away from it then. How about you, Gary?
Yeah, I see 3 things that I'm going to be repeating. The idea of going to a museum to get inspired, art museum. That very fortunate to grow up this close to such high caliber museums that are completely free. First time I went to Philadelphia, I had to pay $20 to get in. I was like, what? And no, it's still worth it. But the idea that, literally it's silly, we should have gotten credit for this. We used to skip school in our senior year and pile into a little Toyota and go up to the mall and spend the day in the National Gallery of Art, and yeah, we were skipping school. But that's inspiring, and it's like a cathedral, but the temple is the studio, the making your own space to create and having that space, very intimate space, is such an important thing to me. And when I get to go there, even if I'm blocked, however the term would be, wind up some electrical cords, dust the floor. Actually, that was something, to work all day and at the end of the day be tired and not sweep the dust off the floor. And the next morning, the first thing that you do is sweep the dust off the floor. It gets you back in a groove, and you're in your space. And the other part, the travel, the museum thing. I think at a young age you get in it, and then you get the travel bug. I think for me it kind of came off of exposure to this fine works of art, wanting to travel, to see these things, wanting to go to Italy, and so all those things are great inspirations. But getting out to your studio and just doing it. And it'll happen. If it's not in that exact line, it might be a new thing that pops up, or while you're winding up electrical cords, or something. Just keep yourself there. I know I want to be there, so just get myself out there.
Thank you.
Where I'm at right now, it's like I have to grab every bit of time that I can to be making work. So I'm never really having a big struggle or like experiencing block. It's just like, okay, I'm done with this, dinner's done, I can go do something. But I also resonate with a lot of what other people have been saying about collections and just keeping things around. and cleaning, actually. Like, you know, I get a little down right now because the one room in my house that is supposed to be my studio is kind of just like storage right now. To make up for it, other parts of my house are like flex space for work as well. But then when I get in there and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fill one bag of trash or something and just like clear out some of this clutter, you know, I dig through stuff, I find things that I'd forgotten about, that I still care about. I don't always fill the one bag of trash, but then sometimes in the process, like two things will be next to each other, and then I stick them together with paint or glue or tie them together with wire, and suddenly a new thing is growing. So, yeah, I feel like sometimes I run into moments with a painting or a drawing where I feel like I'm having an off day, but I don't know, as long as I just keep doing it, it fixes itself.
I hear a common theme with cleaning. It's almost like smudging a space, almost like, you know, and I'm also hearing a common thread about sort of a sacred space, that the art studio or the art making place becomes like a trigger to turn on that creative part. So I'd like to ask, do you consider your practice at all a spiritual practice? However you want to define that.
Well, I do. I'm not sure how to define it, but the idea of something which has been mentioned today, of something speaking to you or hearing I don't know how to even describe what that is. It's not like there's literally a voice saying this, that, but it's something, it's like an internal spark, a way of connecting to the world, to people, to nature, to my own unconsciousness and consciousness, and it's a way of sorting through confusion. It's a way of finding answers, or maybe not finding them, searching for them anyway. It feels deeply spiritual to me, but I don't mean that like I don't really mean it in a religious sense. I think the word spiritual is such a triggering word. People will have different ways of defining what that means. But for me, and for the way that I digest that word, it is, very much of a spiritual practice when it really comes down to it. Yeah.
Okay, great. How about you, Thomas?
Definitely, it's spiritual for me. I once painted a painting that said, my soul, the painting was not for sale, but basically it was talking about my soul, being authentic is the greatest gift that I can give anyone that's going to purchase my work, because I can tell you that spiritually, this is all I have, is who I am. I have a heart and vessels just like you. I just happen to do something maybe a little different than the next person, but I can definitely say that it's spiritual. Music plays a huge part in that, coming from Duke Ellington School of the Arts, having friends that can tell jokes, make us laugh about the horrors of the world, having people that can play horns, music is spiritual, and family is spiritual, how we got here, and how we remain here, and who is watching over us while we're still here. Just yesterday I had a talk to the God of my understanding in the shower, and I just asked him to continue to use me how he sees fit. So, yes, things are spiritual.
Thank you.
I guess the way I want to answer that is just to say that art has always been a way for me to connect more deeply with reality, or my reality. Looking at something, even if you really study something, a person, or I don't know, a chair or an apple, you could spend 5 minutes at it, but when you draw it, you're going to spend 20, 30 minutes or more, and you just move more deeply into the understanding of that. And then, so I'm going to leave that there, except for one other thing, which is, it's kind of a joke, but not really. But before I get out of bed every morning, I say, thank you, universe. Because, maybe not out loud, but because it's a kind of crazy, beautiful life we can live if we choose to do that. So, and things have been going great in my life. So.
Nice.
Yeah, right. Yes, it is spiritual, but it's meditative. If I don't, my wife would say, she used to say, I can tell you didn't have your studio time today. So, very cleansing, very, and necessary. But some of my more, especially, I have a passion for doing public work, trying to get commissions to do large work, getting my work in an outdoor setting, and I want to have a good message. I mean, so the ones that are in those situations, I'm very aware that I'm trying to use what I've been given to put something out there that is positive, reinforcing to others, and not just myself. And so I hope to achieve. And so I have that. It's part of feeling that's spiritual. That is something that you're going to give back. What are you going to do with it? You got this talent. So what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Thank you.
So I would never lead with, I am a spiritual creator or a spiritual person, or I practice as spiritual, but it feels wrong to just flatly answer no to the question. For some similar reasons, I definitely feel like I feel meditative when I've gotten enough time to just do some work. And also, my being able to keep doing my practice definitely fills a void that is hard to articulate inside of me, and it just is life affirming. And then also, I feel like the communal aspect of the communal aspects of some of my practice feel aligned with some communal aspects of spiritual practices, and it's been really interesting in different places. I always manage to find other people, even when I move places, and I'm starting to scratch again. But I find other people making things, and then we do stuff together. Or when I started having my drawing group, I met a bunch of new people, and then other people heard about us and were like, wait, there's a drawing group happening here. And then going out and being with people and just doing what I'm doing out there. I don't know, it does make me feel more tied in. I have these quiet personal parts of it too, but yeah, most often than not, it just makes me feel more tied in.
Mm-hmm.
I always have a sketchbook or something with me, but when I was younger and would go to parties, I didn't really like to stand around and talk to people, but I would always have my sketchbook, because that would be a place where someone could just come and be like, oh, what are you doing? And I'd be like, this is something I'm comfortable talking about, but not be totally alienated.
Yeah, it's part shield, part invitation.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very functional.
Well, there's so many things to learn, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to ask questions, make any comments. I'd like to just open this up to anyone that might have a question regarding anything. Yeah.
My question's about flow state, I guess. Being in the groove, in the zone. I mean, obviously these works are the visual representation of that, but what does it feel like, when you're in the zone? Does time stand still? Does it slow down? I mean, I know what it's like to be there, don't know how to describe it. So that's my question. It's how do you describe when it's just flowing? Because the works flow, so just...
I would say time tends to slow down, not always, but tends to. And Painting often is, I guess, I don't know if endorphin is the right word, but it's a high that it's hard to replicate any other way for me. You get like really like, woo, I'm like floating like somebody on a kite pulled me back down.
Is that partly because you are always like in the moment? Like,
I feel like it is.
yeah.
But, you're very focused, so like if you're focused on working, then well, it's happened to me twice recently. Someone comes up and says hello, and I'm like, I jump because I was focused on this and not paying attention to my surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I said, it's more artwork connects me more to life, but I don't know if that's exactly true in the moment. It connects me to that one little aspect. Mm-hmm. But that question was flow. So
How about anybody else? Flow?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I love it. I love that question because that's what keeps it going. That's when you get in that mode. It's like I could not paint for like maybe a week or something like that. And boy, when I put down just one stroke of anything, what it does to me, it's like extra. It's like nutrients to the body. Really, it's like I feel validated as a person, as a human being. I'm alive, and it feels good no matter what's going around me. And that's the gift that comes with the gift, and that's how you're able to give back in a sense, because you're putting your energy out there. It's real. I could stay consistent with that. The energy of it is real, so that flow is powerful. Once you get in it, it could be it could be a song, a current event, color. Yes, wonderful question.
Yeah, I guess I'll add to it. As a teacher, I think right brain, left brain, and so that I get lopsided on the right hand side, and that's the flow. I mean, sometimes you're just there and you're not thinking about. There's nothing else. There's nothing of numbers. I mean, mathematics, and nothing that's coming at me except this. Flow is a great way to put it, but you're not aware that Evan's about to open up and dump rain on your head. You're just so into what you're doing, you're not paying attention to the weather, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I would just say it's sort of the ideal state to be in, that, that's really great, but sometimes I'm not in that state.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm working, but I'm not necessarily in flow state. So I'd say it's good to do the work anyway. And then you do the work, and if you get to have enough time with it, then you'll be in the flow state. And sometimes in my life, my time gets interrupted. So,
But you have to be there when it hits.
yeah,
If you're
right,
not, it's
exactly.
you're never
That's
gonna
right.
be in. Craig, you have a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry, your name it's Dade?
Yes.
Thomas.
Dade.
Tom.
Yes.
You mentioned you're interested in physics and how it is interacting with your work. It's a subject I'm really interested into in the same way. Physics, how it applies to art. So what kind of physics?
Just the idea that I know it's there. I don't proclaim to be Einstein or anything like that. My son Joshua, he is very into astrophysics, and he had me draw this thing about NASA. So I'm just embracing what I totally don't understand, but I feel it sometimes. Like my first show that I had when I moved to Hagerstown was called Ancient Future Now. So I believe everything that I'm doing now is destined to happen in a sense. Me being in love with the Spaniard, Pablo Picasso's life, naming my daughter Paloma or something like that, because of his relationship with his daughter Paloma, I'm sort of projecting things into my future. And I never thought I'd be sitting here in Front Royal talking to distinguished folk. He looks like he's Jackson Pollock coming from, a hardworking man, with a wonderful question. You yourself, I I used to sell furniture for Crate and Barrel. You remind me of, what's the guy? He used to work, well, anyway. You all look very interesting to me, so, you know, new collector, whole bunch of stuff. Ballard, I don't know what we were talking about, but I'm just happy to be here. I thank everybody for showing up. But physics, yes. It's like being here at this moment, like my grandmother giving me that piece of paper and saying, boy, I see something. She didn't know how to explain it. She wasn't practicing hard, but it brought me here to talk about something and talk about something that's important.
Did you ever look into chaos theory?
Chaos theory?
Chaos theory.
Someone once came into Sam's studio one time, a young guy who was in school. He had a book called Organized Chaos, you know? And that's pretty much like what my studio time would be sometimes, putting all these ideas together, just pulling in everything. I want to say this, one of my favorite quotes from an artist, Romeo Beard, is like, be like a whale, you know, take everything in, whatever you can't use, just goes out the other end per se, you know? So I just take in everything. I don't have to fully understand it, but parts of it, or embrace it.
Yes.
Thank you for asking. But you're a physicist?
No, I'm an artist.
He did the pieces, the red and the.
Oh, wow, okay, right, wow, well, see.
I had good friends that was a chaos theory guy, you know, and, he was kind of the star of chaos theory, actually.
Is that right?
And he was very interested in art also. So it was kind of interesting to find, you know, how those connect. You know, it's pretty esoteric, I know. But the structure, I mean, like that head there, you know, I mean, it's, the structure is, you know, it has a mathematical kind of component to it, at least the way I'm seeing it.
Yes. The reason being is because I paint in layers. I may have shown that painting one way, but just like Picasso said, a painting's not done until it leaves the studio. That can haunt me. It haunts me sometimes, but I love my work so much that I'll live with it because I don't try to create anything that I don't think anyone else would enjoy or it would move them in any certain type of way. But yes, I turn things upside down and I change. I'm not afraid to. When I was in Duke Ellington, Kathy Kahn, she went down and my first oil painting, she had me paint over a beautiful painting, 6 feet tall. I didn't understand it at the time. And then I went to Percy Martin and he said, don't get attached to your work, and I was throwing clay. I learned along the way. Yeah. But I love art.
You had a question.
Yeah, you know, we live in this society that is driven by social media. These young people just live and die by what is on TikTok and YouTube. And I'm really curious how we create that love and appreciation of art with our the generations coming behind, that both of you have referenced, and what are you leaving behind? Because I worry a little bit that they don't see what I see right now. Now I'm older, maybe that's why I see everything through a different lens now. But I feel like they're so bombarded by what I call quick and dirty, what they can see and get done quickly on social media, and they become influencers because of what I call silly little things that they do. And for me, it's like, how do we help them understand the depth and importance of what artists like you and those who've come before you who inspired you did to show us what the world is about? You were the teachers.
I've had the same thought. I mean, where's the next generation of makers?
Oh, I have a thing.
Yes.
So, I don't know, the internet is gigantic, and I just feel like there is a lot of creativity out there. People just have to look for it and search for random things, or start with something you know you like and then see what that person might be looking for. And I'm not on TikTok, I'm not on Facebook, like I don't connect with a certain amount of that. I'm very bad at keeping up with like the Instagram account that I have, and I'm bad at self-promotion, but I mean, it is sort of a creative act. I don't get a lot of the things, and I don't always respond positively to their output. But it doesn't, I don't know, that one of the things that was most exciting when the internet was brand new was just the fact that people could just jump on there and start making things, and it brought things, they like democratized things more. So it's like we weren't just getting your ideas and information from a few specific channels or companies or whatnot. And even though right now I feel like it's sort of the same thing, there's some large companies that are with some certain algorithms that are generating a certain kind of content, but it doesn't actually take much, I don't think, to just step away from that and just start doing your own searching and navigating. Yeah, I just feel like the main thing with any of that is just to remember that you can find stuff. You don't just have to let stuff come to you. And then my other thought about that is that we're in this interesting technological mix where, like in this county, there's tons of kids that don't meet that criteria because they don't have phones, and there's adults that have never had computers, and so like there's this whole mix of people, whether they've been attached to screens their whole life or not, it can still just be suddenly amazing to see something in the world. So I guess I just feel like don't lose hope there.
Yeah.
As long as the world is still out there and there's a chance for them to just like encounter an artist making work in the world, then I mean, in terms of like what people can do, there's obviously being educators, but just being you and making this stuff and be a different thing in the world, I think, is sometimes all we can do. But
yeah, I mean, I have retired from teaching, and my 30th year was the online trying to teach students that didn't even have to turn on their camera, so I didn't even know if they were there. And it was hard. I had a really great appreciation all of a sudden for Bob Ross, because he can sit there and just do this thing, and everybody seemed to watch him, and it chilled everybody. Everybody was mellow with it. And I was like, well, I could try that, you know. And so, yeah, literally, I'd set up an easel and say, all right, we're going to start with a black canvas today. We're going to start by painting the highlights first, and we're going to do this portrait. You know? And, you know, I felt like I was doing the horse and pony show. But I agree wholeheartedly with what he said. And that, you know, I have a lot of hope for him. But that was a really tough time. That was a really tough time. And I do know that when they would have, we talked last week, our talked about influences. And I really feel strongly like, you know, if I really like this artist, I want to find out who that artist liked. And then, so that I will learn more and try to understand what they liked about that artist. Try to understand that for myself, because it may not be written. But so my students would find interesting artists on Instagram, and I'm sitting there trying to teach them about Picasso, you know, and you know, but maybe there is that connection, you know, and yeah.
George, you had a question.
Comment. Actually, I think we have given ourselves the answer to the question of how do we get the children, for instance, that are coming to be more aware and to participate. In a very simple statement, I say that the common denominator that you all have is someone put it in your hand. And I think if you take that simple statement, because I love it, as some people know, the KISS philosophy, keep it simple, stupid, because I love looking in the mirror and saying that to myself. But with that thought, each of you had that opportunity, just as we have all had that opportunity. But I see it I have two 10-year-old granddaughters, twins, and we put it in their hand all the time, every day. I was at a church service earlier this morning. I had to help serve, and one of my granddaughters came up, and she wanted to stay with me, and I'm like, how's this going to work? And she stayed with me. But when you talk about the spiritual thing, that's where we all have this same connection about love and hope and success. And we have to realize that it's not so hard, but it's putting it in the right hand and moving forward. This type of meeting in this town is unheard of in the past. And it's no longer the case. And we're forever grateful for that. And we're grateful for you all for participating, because sharing your wealth of knowledge and your heart with us helps our hearts feel so much better.
Any other final questions?
I have one statement.
Yes.
I really think that finger painting should be a required course from kindergarten through college. That's my favorite.
I agree. And shop and
Finger painting is you have to do it every class.
and potato carving prints. Yes, May.
Can I ask a question of that? You've all been teachers to some extent and you're here. And there has been a tremendous change, I think, with the internet. So, quick question. Seeing the schools as you see them now, is everyone exposed to a little bit of art or music or something along the way? Or is that now like exclusively for those who show the potential and therefore are directed off into a unique path? Or is everybody getting a little something to kind of jazz them up, even if it's not where they end up going?
I can't speak to like every school in the nation, but I work with kids at Claude Thompson Elementary School, which is in Marshall and Fauquier County. It's actually the poorest school in our county. And all those kids do get access to art in their elementary education. What I do is a special group of art therapy after school, but they do have art class and art teaching, and I think they're doing a pretty good job of making sure those kids have something. But there's not enough. I'm not saying enough. I'm just saying it does exist. There's also a lot of effort to do external. There's other people coming in trying to give them extra art. So that's just that one little school though. Maybe you guys have something to say.
So I started, my entire teaching career was Fauquier County. And I was very proud of the fact that I was taking a job with a county that when I was hired 30 plus years ago, they had at least 20 years uninterrupted art education, K through 12. Fairfax could not say that. Fairfax was going through cuts in the 90s, in the late 80s, 90s, when I was getting that job, when I was looking for these jobs. And so I was very impressed that Fauquier had done it. And so, but not enough. Chris, I met Chris, and he's teaching here. He's teaching 5 different schools, so they have 1 elementary art teacher. So they can't. That's changed.
That has changed.
So things getting better, not worse. So.
There are teachers in elementary schools now?
Pretty sure.
Cool.
And music, there's always music. I mean, there's
Yeah.
The gateway.
yeah, music. Is
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear all of it. Are there art teachers currently working in Warren County Public Schools?
Yes, I can say that.
Yes.
Yes.
In elementary only?
No, all the way through.
All the way through?
All the way through.
I mean, really, I served 5 schools, and as artist in residence, it was really only half-time contact with students. So I don't know how many kids I saw in here, 2,000 maybe, and they didn't see much of me.
Well, because I used to work in Arlington, and every child had to go to art once a week.
Yeah, see, we didn't have once a week. I don't think they do now. They have, I think I was one person, and there's, I think, at least 3 for the 5 schools. I mean, one school is 2 classes per grade level, so it's very small.
Is there anything we can do as a county to help art in the schools here in Warren County?
I am sure there is.
Run for office.
But I don't know what it would be.
Well, it's a question of money.
It is partly, but I think, if, like, especially elementary art teachers who are running from class to class could probably use someone to help, like, just support their, just facilitate, you know,
Help by material.
or come back later in the same week and help them finish a project or do something, you know.
Well, the numbers of art teachers need to be increased.
Well, yeah, well, there's that, that's money. And also, I don't know, there's a teacher shortage at the moment.
Sure.
So,
I was just gonna note that Chris's residency, like, was created whole cloth, between, was it Janet Broom that you partnered with, who were you working with? To develop your residency in Warren County? Can you tell me that like it didn't exist before you?
it didn't exist. No.
Yeah, so sometimes people just have to come up with programs and be willing to do the work to fundraise for them and pitch them, and sometimes
Well, like they do
it'll
at
take.
Rappahannock, with a lot of money, a lot of support, scholarships.
Well, we're here. I mean, it's been done.
Thank you for bringing
Quick
that.
question about hands-on art and computer art, okay, because this gets back to that. Are these same schools investing in a lot of online training or device activity as opposed to moving actual stuff around with your hands? I mean, how's that balance working out these days?
Well, digital art is their native language now, so they're teaching us.
Yeah.
Ultimately. But I mean, like my son is a senior in high school. I mean, they have dark room classes, like old school black and white, but they also have digital classes. So I think they're trying to combine a little of both. But what do you guys think?
My son finished being in public school a couple years ago, but you know, I felt like they were struggling with even just putting a tablet in every kid's hand. You know, like they were all getting these Chromebooks, but there was always some issues with them. So, I mean, I did actually feel like at the technical center they had some, you know, access to tools and some other things, but I'm not sure what level of technology they're able to get. I can quickly plug the new makerspace at the library, where we have a glow forge, laser cutter, and some other cool things that kids can come play with. Bertina over them.
Right down the street.
Not really little kids.
Right here. No, it's a new maker space. It's down the street.
It's in the library.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. Oh,
Yes.
great.
No, I'm not talking about the art
Thanks
center.
to a grant,
Yes.
a significant grant. Samuel's Public Library voted best in Virginia.
Correct.
No small feat. What are there, 400-something libraries in Virginia? And our little town. Ding! Anyone else? Yes, Joe, Gillette.
This is
photographer.
just a plug for Chris and Whitney. The Marigold, 8 Kid Lane, the new gallery, the Slow Roll. It's kind of secret space. They're having an opening next Saturday, and come check it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right after the parade.
Yeah, it's primarily their sketches from live music, but also paintings of each other. Yeah.
This will be the new art mecca of the Shenandoah Valley.
It's a renaissance.
You've heard it here
I'm telling
first.
What is the name of that gallery?
Marigold.
Marigold.
Yeah, it's in the back room of the Stone Branch Art Center,
It's just sort of a block and a half, 2 blocks down.
right
on
across
the
from the
right.
movie theater, and then there's a side entrance across from Vibrissa. Yeah,
Yeah.
Vibrissa down Kid Lane, the karate studio,
Oh,
Artie Drago's place, and there's.
Thank you, I didn't know about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's a secret spot.
Not
2025 it won't be there right now.
Very well.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, please come.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Now's your chance, Skip.
Pretty organized. I fell down a Facebook rabbit hole this morning that sort of circulated around the idea of the mind's eye. And there's a scientific name for it, aphantasia, where you can't visualize things in your mind. And I suspect that there's a spectrum of people who can completely visualize a completed image, in most cases, in their mind, to people who have nothing but a blank canvas there. And there probably are a lot of people that just through stream of consciousness let things flow out through their hand, through a brush, through a chisel or whatever, but it's not preconceived. there are workarounds. The one that I look at is technology, but I'm curious as to how many of you are able to conceive an idea in your mind and then basically copy it onto canvas or stone, as opposed to somebody who says, okay, I'm in my space, I'm in my groove, I'm just going to let this flow.
I would say the second is closer. There's no facsimile image in my mind that is being transcribed ever.
But arguably, wherever you are on that spectrum, you probably have a hard time conceiving how anybody else's mind operates.
Sure.
I don't know, I can do both. It depends what I'm doing, because I can do the both ways.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But usually doesn't the real thing turn out better than what you imagined? That's always been my experience. Like if I follow, like it starts with a concept, like an idea, sort of like.
When I start with the concept, yeah, it may evolve differently from what I imagined. But like, I guess I was thinking, like, if I'm doing a figurative piece and I know that it's supposed to look like something, then I know that I can make it look like something. It's two different ways of working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could say something to that. It's sometimes when you get this inkling in you, you get something that touches you. I once did something that I said, and for that point evermore, it was like if I think of something in my head, draw it. So if I think something, I sketch it down. And it was during the late 90s, the city in Washington, D.C. were going through a lot of things. I was thinking about people and things and such as that. So people were coming out of jack-in-the-boxes and whatever, and I was sitting there thinking like Rodin Stinker. Well, the painting came out just like that. So sometimes, like she says, you can do them both. Sometimes you want things to be free-flowing. The stream of consciousness is something that I subscribe to from Ralph Ellison, The Invisible Man. His form of writing is a stream of consciousness. I champion that, and when I paint, my stream of consciousness. That's why music is so important. Miles Davis, to me, people who sort of created an art form within music that has never been created before in America, that sort of thing, through all the adversities that they have, My favorite album is Kind of Blue, I've listened, I can never stop listening to that, so yes, the mind and then the hand and the stream of consciousness, they work hand in hand. Sometimes it's like the photographer. He sees exactly what is in front of him, in a sense, right? So we all have that capability. We can take pictures. Sometimes you can paint them. So yes, that's a very great question.
I can see where somebody in Joe's situation, who has a physical environment that he's looking at, can see there and can envision things. But if you're in a blank studio with a blank canvas and a palette of paint, sometimes some of us just will look at the white canvas for hours.
Yeah, that's true.
It seems
and then jump to technology then, AI.
we keep looking for explanations today, like with influence, inspiration, curiosity, but it sounds to me that you don't need to explain. It's primal.
Yes,
where your
it's
ideas
ineffable,
and
really.
It's there, and maybe it doesn't need to be explained. It just needs to be appreciated and loved.
Yeah, and done, expressed.
Yeah.
I think that's how we're going to help the youth. We just be consistent and do what we do. All the different mediums that we have, everything that everybody has, all the concerns for children. If we don't have the concern, then we're really lost. But the fact that we have these questions, I think, is probably is what's going to get us over the hump. We still have people that care, people that can still have the capacity to hope and see a brighter future for everybody, especially children, because they're the ones that's going to take care of us later.
We hope.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Partake.
Yeah.
Huh?
Partake.
Yes, partake.